Let it get teed up. There we go. We should be live. Give it a few minutes for anybody to hop on.
It's noon on Wednesday and the sirens are going off.
Right. Yeah, they're testing the tornado sirens. Just a couple minutes and we can dig in. For everybody hopping on, I'm Kellen Cowan with Newave Solutions. This is one of my engineers, Jeff Brown. He's here if you guys have any fantastic technology questions to answer those. And we're going live today from our Newave Solutions page. We realize that we're all kind of tackling this brave new world together. Almost all of our clients have either completely moved remote or they have a hybrid. They have people in the office and they have people working remote. And there's challenges that go with that. One of the first that we see and arguably one of the most important in any company is communication and what some of those communication challenges look like. So as we have people coming on, it's kind of what I wanted to talk about, Jeff, is when we talk about communications in a company, what are some of the things you've seen as, we've had dozens and dozens of companies deploy their entire staff remote.
Well, this event caused a scramble like none we've seen. And it was interesting to see the difference between those who had done some planning and some thinking about this possibility and those who hadn't. Technology, fortunately, was able to make it possible for people to pretty easily get set up. But again, there was a lot of difference between those who had thought about it and those who hadn't.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I noticed too. Is I was on the phone with a lot of our clients asking questions, and it was kind of a standardization. We're all in the office. We have processes that we go by. Our departments are clearly defined, and I guess all that say communications cannot be left to the smartest technical individual in the company, where everybody's using different applications and there's mass text messaging being sent out. You need some form of standardization. You need to really think about, okay, as we all leave the office, how are we communicating in our departments? What's that team conversation look like? How am I communicating back and forth individually? And then a lot of people are using these video conferences. What conference platform are we going to use? And does everybody know how to use it? Right? I think that's some of the things that we've seen. Off that, what I'd recommend is all of our clients are on Office 365. So Microsoft has Microsoft Teams. It allows you to chat in departments. It allows you to chat individually, and it allows you to have those team video conferences. You can also share documents and resources. Some of the competitors, if you guys don't have Office 365, Slack is used a lot. In Slack, I can share documents. I can set up group chats, which are great, and I can do individual chatting. And then G Suite, so Google, they have a Google chat. They have Google Hangouts for the video conferencing piece. Those are all great alternatives. But again, I think it goes back to what you said, Jeff, kind of the standardization, right? Is what am I going to use and how are we all going to use it? I've seen another challenge. We have a lot of small companies that rely 100% on email, and they've been deployed at home with no phones. So they're all on their cell phones and they're trying to send a million emails back and forth and to slow down all their processes.
Right. And a lot of them are very comfortable with Outlook or whatever email platform they use, and they're not able to use the same platform at home. So they're frustrated and having trouble communicating with email because of that.
Yeah, it's easy. I mean, so we are the IT resource for a lot of our clients. So they're able to ask us, hey, what's the one sheet, or how do I best use, let's say it's Microsoft Teams or this application. That's the other kind of holdup is if we do deploy something, how do you use it, right? What I wanted to cover too is okay, so we can chat individually. We figured that out. But the communication side of things, if you have a phone system that can't leave the office, it's challenging. You're all on cell phones that don't have extension. You can't see who's on the phone. And those are the things that most of you are probably used to in your offices. And so as we've deployed, what I would encourage everybody to do is if you're on that kind of a platform where you can't take your phone home or have an app on your cell phone that clearly ties back to your company, start thinking about voice over IP is what they call it, or cloud communications. right? What do those kind of things look like? For ours, as an instance, everybody was able to just plug their phone in at their house, and they were working exactly as they do in the office. For myself, I set up in the back to get away from my screaming kids, and I can actually pull my software up and just communicate off my laptop with everybody.
Yeah. Voice over IP is no longer just a sexy new thing that people are moving to because it's new. It is proven to be very beneficial in situations like this.
Hi, Gail. Let's see. Gail had a question. What are some options for people needing shelter in place that may not have internet access? What are cost-sensitive ways to establish Wi-Fi connection in more remote situations, or those moving in with elderly parents? That's a great question. So Gail, the way I'd answer that, right, and there's a lot of challenges for those that even have options for Wi-Fi or internet at home, but check into your cellular plan. So your cellular providers have hotspots where more than one device can connect at home, the MiFi hotspots, but most cell phone plans can be easily upgraded to do a hotspot. Like on my cell, I go in and just turn my hotspot on. It'll be password protected. And I log on them with my computer to my 4G network. And sometimes it's faster than my home internet anyway.
Yeah, it's a great resource. Most people are carrying around now. A lot of people have unlimited data plans, so they're not going to be looking at overages. And it's easier than trying to set up something that doesn't exist.
Well, I'll tell you, so last week I'm at home and I have some lightweight software. So I'm not even using really complex software at home. Some of the software is going to run slower in a home environment anyway. This should be really fast and everything bottlenecked at like 2:00. Because I'm in the tech world, I realized that, my kids are on Hulu and Netflix or gaming. So I got everybody off and it was still slow. And then I had to realize that we're all leaving our offices at the same time and working from home, and the internet provider, whether it be Cox or AT&T or CenturyLink, they haven't seen this volume on a home network maybe ever. And so that whole last mile to your house is really bogged down. So Gail, to your question, even if you have an internet provider and you just can't get the bandwidth you need out of it, a backup would be to try that hotspot on your 4G and see if it is a better work environment for you. So great question. Any thoughts on any of that, Jeff?
No, I do think the cell phone tethering option is probably one everybody needs to find out about and learn how to use.
Well, we're going to do this for 3 weeks. One of the things that I thought of as well is if you're on an internet connection, it's just slow, it could also be your wireless router. That's one of the first things to check. And we'll talk about that in 2 weeks, just common at-home issues we're seeing for everybody. And we'll give you guys some suggestions on what to test, how to test it, and then what equipment to buy that's inexpensive and works really well for your home. Let's see, we got what are the recommendations for peak use times to utilize or avoid? Man, peak times have it used to be a 3:00 thing when kids got out of school, or a 3:30 thing. They're all over the map now from what I'm seeing. And so that's what I would say. If you notice a severe lag in bandwidth, it could be that everybody in your neighborhood's hopped on, and you need to try that hotspot on your phone and see if you get a better connection.
Yeah, that may be a reality we just have to live with for a while until they figure out how to deliver better bandwidth to the neighborhoods.
Well, and that's what we'll talk about again in week 3 with challenges, right? As we jump into these things, if that's a challenge, how do I kind of self-assess? How do I check my wireless? What do I do there? How do I make that phone call to the provider? We can knock all that out. And then Megan's got a question too. What do you guys recommend for file backup? Should we be using the cloud, Dropbox, etc.? That's a great question. We have integration with several large enterprise partners that allow us to do file and image backup from all devices pretty seamlessly. But for users at home, what are your thoughts on kind of some backup solutions?
Well, a lot of people are familiar with Dropbox, and Dropbox works. One of the reasons it's popular because it's easy to use. It is not the most secure platform out there in our estimation. But if you're using Office 365, you've got storage built into there, and it is probably more secure than Dropbox and is an option that's not going to cost you any additional money.
Yeah. And if you're just talking about, I've got localized documents on a laptop or a workstation at home, then you can also look at Carbonite. It's not a bad solution for a single device when I'm working from home.
If you have a lot of mission critical important data on a laptop, you probably ought to consider having an external drive that you're backing your data up with a solution like Carbonite so that it's not all housed in one place or out there on the web where you may or may not be able to pull it back when you need it.
Yeah, and when you look for an external drive, they're little black drives about this big, and they usually say 1 or 2 terabytes. And over the years, those have really dropped in price. You can look for specials on Amazon, or if Best Buy's open, swing by, and they're generally $60 to $90. Not a bad option as well. And it's always good to have things in multiple places. For my phone, I actually love Google Photos. A lot of storage is taken up by Photos, and you get an account that ties right into your Google accounts that you may have already set up personally, and you can back up your phone and get a lot of those heavy resources off your actual mobile device, and it'll free and speed that device up as well. Perfect. Let's see. Are there security concerns with any video conferencing apps that we should be cautious of? Yeah, so I'll dig into this a little more next week. That's from Gail. Next week on the 22nd, we're going to talk about security in general because you can't just go and work from home and feel like you're as secure as you are in the office. It's just not a reality. There's steps you need to take. And there's cyber criminals knowing that we're hearing, pandemic, COVID, and they're really taking advantage of everybody, and they're preying on everybody via email. And there's been a lot happening with these Zoom meetings. And Gail, that's what you're talking about. Probably that's hitting the media. Probably the biggest vulnerability there is not taking the time to go through settings. And again, I'll go through this in more depth next week. And then people are publishing. So you've seen cities and schools get hit, and people saying horrible things or leaking addresses and numbers for teachers and interrupting meetings. It's because they're actually publishing the meeting invite from Zoom on public platforms where anybody can get a hold of them. So that'd be one of the first steps, is make sure that how I'm inviting somebody's private. Anything else you got?
I'm part of a couple of groups that have been using Zoom because everybody can do it easily. And we've tested and found that Zoom will not allow anyone but the host to record that meeting. And that's one of the things that's been going around is perhaps businesses having discussions about clients and some kind of sensitive data and it being captured out there on the web. And we've found it hard to replicate that.
Okay, perfect. Well, guys, so to recap just for today, we wanted to keep it short, but we definitely did, want to bring awareness to the fact that, man, we're all in this together, and we know that our process has changed overnight. And there's some things that every person working for a company and every business owner needs to know, and we want to share those. So we're doing a 3-part series. Today was around communication, and kind of the recap, Jeff, was have a plan. And if you haven't made one and you're relying on your younger professionals to recommend applications and people are doing different things, really work on standardizing just like you did back at the office, right? Is the questions are, how are we going to communicate with email not being as effective as it was with everybody in the office? What does our communication platform look like, since this could be a change for a long time in the future with our phone system? You guys really need to start researching some cloud-based or VoIP phone systems, or give us a holler. We've done that for over a decade. And then third is the technology is available to have your department meetings the way you've always had them, to chat and share documents within departments, to have individual communication at a high level, and to have those high level video conferences like you are in the same room. And 3 of the applications we would recommend at Newave are Microsoft Teams, the G Suite, so Google Hangouts and Google Chat within that G Suite. And then again, Slack does a really good job, and it's fairly inexpensive. Thank you guys for your time. Any other questions too, go ahead and hit us up and we'll make sure to answer you guys. And if you didn't get to ask your question or you watch this video later and want to ask questions, email us at sales@newwavesolutions.com and we'll get an answer back. And if we hear that enough, we'll probably make a video on it or we will be covering it in later episodes. I look forward to seeing you guys again. We will be back next Wednesday, 12 o'clock, and we're going to talk about security. So Gail, as to your last question around, hey, what are my vulnerabilities on these video calls? There's that. And there's a lot of vulnerabilities in mail and simply working from home. We're going to cover those next week, the 22nd at 12 o'clock. Y'all have a blessed day.